It all comes down to being grounded. That's the only way life can actually function, is when we're rooted to the earth. That's the kind of responsibility, I think, as musicians, of what we put in the music is going to translate into someone's spirit. That whole EP was very inspired from cultures all around the world, and the artwork was building slowly alongside of that. Music was the main thing, but that had to break down. I don't think I would be making artwork in the way that I am if I had that success in the industry. It's been a one-woman show for most of what you hear. I ended up getting all the rights back to all of the music, which was amazing.
Welcome, dear listeners from all around the world. If it's the first time or if you're a returning listener, welcome to this episode of the Oliver Schirach Show, and me, your host, Oliver. And today we have Alice, a UK music producer, singer, and astrology artist. This is the first episode out of 2. Alice has been so nice to agree on a second episode after we finished this one here. I found her on Instagram with her astrology art, so Astro Code. And in this episode, we go into her past and her journey into the astrology, into the self-growth and self-development and spiritual growth. And as it is, my questions are going everywhere. So I asked her, I read something about music and, some songs being played internationally on radio. Was that you? And yes, it was her. So in the second part of this interview, after she describes a bit who she is and where she comes from and a little bit of her journey, she starts sharing about her musical journey and the EPs and the music, how she created it and how she got out of it, and a little bit on the transition to the astrology art. You get a short video now after this intro, so you can see her in action and listen to one of her songs. And at the end of this interview, you get a short video of her astrocode art. So without any further ado, welcome to Alice and this special interview with some music.
We've been dancing around, can never put our fingers close. But I went on a journey, I swear I saw you in another life. It was different. And the chords I hold, through to the angels to keep safe. But the war broke out, and I know if I can win again. If you want me, why don't you say? If you need this, why don't you say?
There's no like beep, 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 and begin.
Exactly. It started. So welcome, dear listeners, to another Oliver Schirach show. It has been some time for me. We just had a pre-show talk about being human design projectors, where you just do the things how they feel. And today I have, I want to say Olus, but I think it's Alice. It's I found her on Instagram because of the nice astrology, sacred geometry things she posted, and all the it just drew me in, and I wanted to talk to her. So we managed now, after 2 months of back and forth. It's the perfect timing as it is. So welcome, Alice.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. We made it. We made it in the end.
Yes.
Through this crazy summer.
Yes. So who are you? So to ice break, because I don't really know you, I normally start with the question, 3 words that describe you now as a person, or how you would describe yourself, and why you choose those words. You can go in stories or just a little bit in description.
Ooh, 3 words to begin with.
Yeah, to describe you.
So,
Icebreaker.
Oh my God. I would say emotional, sensitive and playful.
Okay. Why emotional?
Emotional because it's just how I've always been. You know, I very much am always seeing beneath the surface of things. And for me, that's always, you know, that just creates emotion. I'm creative, I make music and art. So if I didn't have that emotional side, I don't think I would be able to create and be drawn to the things that I'm drawn to, you know, if I didn't have that part within me. And it's a lifelong journey to manage those emotions in a way that serves my life and doesn't just make me, you know, cry over animal videos every day and things like that.
So when you say emotional, is it like you start crying fast, start laughing fast, or how do you mean? Or you just...
I feel the full spectrum most days, you know, it's taken me a long time to be okay with that. And yeah, I would just say that I experience life, you know, I laugh so hard at things, but I'll also just feel things so deeply, you know, it's just that full spectrum that I experience on a day-to-day basis. It's fun.
Okay. Some people call it highly sensitive, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
Like
yeah.
HSS or whatever. I don't want to label because through my path now, at age 46, I realized careful with labels because otherwise you identify yourself and then you're kind of stuck.
Definitely.
You're stuck.
That's why I was careful of using that, because I agree. I think and it's funny you bring that up because I was having a conversation with someone this morning about that, how label culture is actually quite damaging for the human spirit right now, and it's everywhere. Like, it's chronic. Everyone has to have some label to describe this really mysterious thing that we call being a human. So yeah, I'm with you on the no labeling.
Oh my God, that's just a big can of worms. I just think of the Olympics and all that crap. Sorry. I'm a big fan of Queen, of George Michael and all that 80s rock, pop. They didn't label themselves. They were just humans. Now, without being labeled this or that, they could not perform, and it's so crazy. Dear teenagers and early 20s, millennials, you're just brainwashed, unfortunately.
I know. It's really sad.
Yeah, also with HHS or whatever. But let's leave it there. When you say you're highly sensitive in a way, emotional, going up and down, I mean, me as well. Human Design says I'm a non-emotional, as a provocative word. That means like I cannot listen to my emotions as indications of which way to go. And so I absorb emotions, and I can relate very much to that. Several situations in my life, I just felt, up and down. And I could realize it was the people around me. When I had a lot of anxious or depressed people, I felt super depressed. I could barely move. When I'm around people which are uplifting and, you know, forward going, I'm like full of this positive energy. So you relate to that?
Oh, definitely. I'm a sponge for whatever I'm around, and that's one of the biggest things I've had to learn with that more sensitive side is boundaries. You know, if I'm feeling something, is this actually mine or is this someone else's? And that's where, you know, going on this path of learning about alchemy and what all of that means, it's learning that actually that's to do with how we can manage the energetics that, you know, are inside of us. So to have those to learn how to have those boundaries inside of myself has just been the most critical thing that I'm still in the process, and I probably will always be in the process of learning, you know, to decipher what is my emotion and what is someone else's, and how I can now utilize that, you know, in Reiki sessions. I've started doing Reiki. So that sensitivity that felt like such a curse has felt like such a curse for such a long time, big part of my life. I can actually now utilize that in such a profound way, because with Reiki or any sort of energy, even the astro codes, I can use that to now tune in to another person, you know, in a healthy way, not like, oh, they're feeling this way and now I feel this way, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's two things coming up right now subconsciously. It says two. Let's see what the two things are. You said boundaries. For anyone that listens, what did you learn? Practice, tool to kind of distinguish between you and others? As a first question.
Well, something when I had therapy for 2 years after a really horrible relationship that just kind of, you know, because being that sensitive person, that mirror of, you know, sometimes lack of self-worth or big lack of self-worth, you're going to always attract people that are just going to, you know, enhance that shadow inside of you or just force you to have to see that part of yourself. So that was a big, you know, part of the therapy sessions that I was in, is how can I, you know, keep solid in myself when around any person. And the tool that she gave that has been so helpful with, you know, those boundaries is just envisioning this kind of pole that goes through the center of my body into the earth at all times that I can tap into. Because oftentimes if we're someone that is sensitive and we tend to lack boundaries, we're coming out of our body and you have this feeling of like, whoa, like when I really felt into it, that's what was happening. If I was talking to someone, I would just get like head fog and just a bit dazed because I'm getting absorbed into them. So this technique of grounding into the earth, literally feeling that pole down the center of my body, just going into the earth, you know, has been so helpful. So when I feel that feeling, which will always happen, I'm always going to have that tendency because it's just how I am. But having that tool just allows me just to breathe, and then I come back in, and then I'm re-centered and recalibrated inside of myself. So that's been a really big tool. And also just a lot of alone time. You know, I'm someone that has always lived alone. I enjoy that. I need that isolation time to really reflect. But having been in these, you know, past situations that were very difficult, it forced even more isolation now. But with all of these tools, getting to know myself and actually get to know that little part of myself that is getting lost, you know, that little Alice that's like, oh, you know, can this person save me? You know, it's realizing, no, I can nurture her. I can be there for her, and I can show up as that, you know, that parent that, you know, maybe I didn't have as one maybe would have wished as a young girl, you know?
Yeah.
That maybe goes off on a bit of a tangent from your question. But yeah, those are the tools, you know, really getting to know yourself so definely and so clearly. And the grounding pole, just that big wand that just is like permanently in the ground as much as it can be.
Okay.
And going outside. I'm going outside barefoot a lot. You know, being around nature the last couple of years has changed me from the inside out. So, yes.
Yeah, the barefoot. I wouldn't have done that like 10 years ago. I mean, I was always barefoot at home, in the garden, but never in the city. And this summer, when I walk the dog, I just take the shoes with me, but I'm either just have them with me and just walk barefoot. And then if it's icky, then I take them on, or I start walking, and then when I get to the grass, I take them off. So.
Yes, I have some Adidas slides that I have lived in for the past 3 years, just because of the practicality of walking by grass. I can just throw them off and then put them back on without any difficulty.
Yeah, I have these 5 fingers, you know, these glove shoes, if you know them.
Right. Yeah.
So everyone looks at me weird, but I just love it. I have big feet, so shoes normally are squeezing me. So the second question for that, I mean, the pole, I know it in different versions. I've also heard of like creating a bubble around you, like a balloon, which then is connected to a red line or a pole which goes into the earth, or feel something going through your sexual organs down, or your feet down into the earth, like roots. It's very similar, I guess.
Yes, roots, yeah. The bubble, I feel, can actually... I've heard of the bubble thing, but when I really kind of tried that, something about it just didn't work for me. And I think because with the bubble, the kind of feeling that gives is that you need to be protected from something from the outside. And I think that actually sets us up for, I don't want to say failure, but it's coming from a place of like, oh, I need to protect myself from whatever's around. Whereas it's not that we need to protect, because that suggests that, you know, we're a victim and we need to be, you know, protected from the outside. Whereas the pole is just more so you're in your power, you know, you're like, come at me, whatever is going to, I am here strong, you know. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I was thinking about that this year quite a lot, just how the bubble is kind of got a bit of a victim thing attached to it. I don't know. Some people might disagree, but
no. It's from whom I learned it. I don't know if I learned it before, but one was what's his name? He's really funny. He's like an electric engineer, then became this energy healer. He describes to be careful with the bubble you create, or the aura. If you create like this cement steel kind of wall, so it's a protection from anything outside, and you feel untouchable. So people which come close to you, they kind of feel bounced back because they're not feeling good, because there's like this rigid bubble around you.
Yeah.
And he says for too many highly sensitive people, this bubble is basically starting from your heart, going out very, very soft, and it can be hundreds of meters, very soft, so anything can come in, and you're influenced by anything, and you're not really knowing who you are. So it's about finding this balance of creating a bubble which is flexible and letting energies closer to you, but kind of saying, okay, this is close enough, this is my space, this is your space. So not kind of victimize, but invite people, but to a certain degree.
Yes, yeah.
And he also...
Yeah, see, that feels like balanced. Yeah, that's a balanced way to view it, rather than like, everyone stay out apart from the good ones. It's like, how do we know who the good ones are, you know?
Yeah, he's also... and my sister is also doing Reiki, and I think she also has heard that with the rose. I think it was a golden rose, and you visualize that this rose or golden rose or whatever it is at the boundary of your aura. And then goes and says, hey,
interesting.
Here's the boundary. This is my space. This is your space. You can create your own boundary, which is flexible. You're invited here, and but only until here. And it's not hard.
That's beautiful, yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to try that. The golden rose.
Yeah, it's also used to clean the chakras and the energies around you, and then... yeah.
Another one as well, I've just thought of another one that's reminded me, is the infinity symbol. So I've heard a lot more about that recently, the infinity wave. How, you can kind of envision yourself in one section and the person in the other section, and you are connected, but, you know, there's that 0 point in between you, but there's a flow of energy that kind of keeps you, you know, and you can use that apparently to heal relationships with people. Lots of people have found good. I forget to do it. I keep reminding myself, when I'm with someone, I'm going to do this infinity, but I forget. But I've heard quite a few people talk intensely about how just having this simple visualization, if they're in a conflict with someone, just imagining that infinity, you know, moving between them is really helpful. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of that, but I'm guessing you have.
So Jeffrey Allen was the first guy I talked about. I just opened my documents. I had a lot of Mind Valley classes, and Donna Eden talks about energy healing, and she used energy healing to heal, knowing what to eat, with whom to be. And this 8, I think it was Donna Eden and also Jeffrey Allen in one class, showing like the people, you know, 2 people next to each other, and then the different chakras, the energy centers. And with Donna Eden was really a relationship, as you said, because we attract opposites. We attract what is highlighting our shadows, so we can learn and grow. And it's positive is never attracting positive. Not that it's positive or negative. It's just like the magnetic field, electric field, energy field.
Exactly.
So the way you communicate is different, always in a relationship that works. And we expect the other person to understand the same way as we do. Could be physically, emotionally, verbally, visually, right? So it's kinetic, audio, visual, It's like these 4, 5.
Yes.
And then it's also with Jeffrey Allen talked about the different chakras, how you communicate. So you can communicate through the 8th chakra. So you visualize, like you said, you visualize this 8 going in between. And Donna Eden said she sees this 8 going in between the different energy centers, because she sees like 8 or 9 different energy centers, meridians, the chakras, aura, whatever. I don't. I just believe them. And so there's like...
Well, she maybe... Yeah, sorry, continue. I was just going to say that maybe she's just seeing it in her mind's eye, but maybe she does physically see them. I mean, that would be awesome.
She was raised that way. And I've been going through different classes. So she has been raised by... what aura do you see? What colors do you see? What energies do you see? So that's her parent or her mom. So all her sisters have the same, and her kids as well. And she was in a little city, and there's like these big buff American football players, and they come like, oh, you have a nice purple aura today, right? Like a 24-year-old, because they were around her, and she told them when they were small kids, like, hey, what do you see? How do you see? And then you practice. It's
interesting you bring that up, because I've been reading the book Letting Go, or I can't remember, the book's in the other room, but he speaks on that he was a very kind of like a skeptical, science-minded guy, but he went into this aura reading class, and the lady, it could be the same lady that he learned from, but she was teaching them how to read auras, and he said that when he was with the group of people, he said, I was able to see, I could literally see it, but as soon as he wasn't around those people and within that group, he couldn't see them. So it showed the power of when you are surrounded by people that are connecting with something in a certain way, our energetics connect with that, and we sort of kind of swap those abilities. So yeah, it just reminded me of that when you brought that up.
Yeah, we are projectors according to human design. I can see we ping pong. That was the last interview I had, was the same way. It's ping ponging from idea to idea. Yes, so yeah, infinity sign apparently goes through these different energy centers when they're in harmony, and when there are blocks, there's kind of a block, and apparently you say perhaps we can visualize it to help remove the blockages and to be open.
Yes.
So now what?
Yeah, for sure.
So let's see the second question I had on your emotional. One was now like how to ground yourself. And you mentioned when you work with Reiki or differently, or when you do your astro codes, that you kind of tune into the emotions, I guess. So how do you then clean yourself afterwards from the emotions, or let go, or become back yourself?
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, so I've been experimenting with different ways, because to be honest, when I started doing it, it was very intuitive. I didn't feel like I needed to protect myself or do anything. It was just like I was in and I was kind of doing it. And I don't know if it was a case that I should have been, doing cleansing. I listen to Bashar a lot. I don't know if you know Bashar. And he's a channeler for those that don't know. But he would always speak about how all of these kind of rituals and things we do, a lot of it is just permission slips for our human mind to just think it has some control over a situation. So I tend to take that belief that fundamentally I'm good, it's not going to affect me, and so I go into any session or anything just I'm good, that's kind of my protection, is just knowing that nothing is going to harm me or stay with me after this. But saying that, one thing I have been doing more is, and this kind of ties in, I suppose, to the last thing I said of the playful, not that I'm saying this is because I'm playful, but I'm connecting it. But I bring joy, and I try and bring joy when I'm doing it. Before I do an astro code, I just kind of breathe in and think of the person. I don't know what they look like. They've just commissioned a piece. I mean, most of the time I don't know what they look like or who they are. But I just say their name, and I might hum or sing a bit and just bring loads of joy and love to them, and whatever they need for the piece or the session. So the same thing before a Reiki session, I'll just because I just do distance Reiki at the moment. I'm not doing in-person Reiki right now because I don't have the space for it. But again, I'll just sing their name, and whatever melodies come through, I'm like, this is setting a beautiful space up for them and for me, and we're just going to have a great time energetically together. And then I just kind of end the session or the astro code in the same way of just joy and happiness, rather than this serious, like, I'm going to sage everything now and, you know, I'm protected and like, get all, yeah.
I forgot.
The big scary energy.
I wanted to put some smoke, but I forgot. It's here. I love it.
And I'm not saying, I have sage right here. I'm not like, I'm not talking shit about people that use that, because I literally use it all the time. But it's more so I'm not going to like, I'll use it if I feel like it, you know. For me, it's more about the joy and the feeling that I'm in before I'm going to interact with it, you know.
Yeah.
Before any of these external tools, you know, that, as Bashar says, they're just permission slips, even sage.
Yes.
So
we are all powerful, and it's hard to understand. But I've had an interview which should have been uploaded last 2-3 weeks with a guy from Africa. So he's like, yeah, we can do everything. He didn't believe it until it just like the world opened up in front of him. The console, the matrix just opened up and he could go wherever he wanted. So,
as in, he just had like an awakening, or like,
yeah,
as in it just came all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's we'll find out. I'll post the YouTube
yeah,
interview.
We'll have to listen.
It's otherwise we're not talking about you, right? It's not a show about some other people I interviewed, but we can talk about it another time if you want. So that's beautiful, but it's about joy, right? And if you go to the human design, being a projector, it's about do what brings joy to you, because then you're a stronger magnet. People come to you and you're invited to help energetically or actually physically, that people ask you in the shop. Is that happening to you, by the way? I mean, are people just on the street suddenly asking you for some kind of advice out of the blue because you had a really good time?
It's so funny you say that, because my friends always laugh at me, because wherever we go, I will always attract, like, say we'll just be at the pub or something and sitting on a bench, just, you know, having a drink and chatting. Without fail, every single time, like, a crazy person, I hate using that word, but, you know, like a crazy person will just come and sit next to me and just start talking to me and, like, you know, just saying stuff, and no one else, just me. Or like someone will come and ask directions, or like just say something. I don't mean in like any weird way, but just it's just funny how that does seem to happen. Yes, when I'm in like a really good mood, I do notice, you know, old women just like really smile at me, like they'll just look at me and, you know, kind of nod at me, and I'm like, what do they think of me, you know? But maybe it's that I'm learning. Yeah,
They see the light, they see the happiness, probably. Who knows?
Who knows? Because a lot of the time I feel like I'm walking around looking miserable. Like I feel like I have quite a resting bitch face sometimes. But the old ladies seem to see different. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite wild.
I mean, the old ladies, from the different talks I listen to and the different talks I have, the old ladies were not allowed to actually share their knowledge, their craziness. So they're just nodding. So we don't know how many are around us which actually just see, know,
That's true.
feel.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe there's some power in that suppression, where it's kind of like a spring that's been pushed down. So then it, you know, maybe as they get older, it actually gets stronger. Yeah.
Or
something to that, maybe.
Or they just laugh because they can see someone and they're happy. Without their intervention, other people are stepping into their presence, into their power, into their witchcraft.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
You're in England, so are you considering yourself a witch by any means with all the things you do?
Well, again, it's the label. I don't like to put a label on things. You know, I am just who I am, and I've been called, you know, a witch. My astrology has very strong Lilith. Lilith is supposedly like, you know, the witch of astrology, not in a bad way. She just stands for raw, authentic, you know, completely being who you are. And I suppose doing astrology, astrology is a lot of labels, but I never think of myself as a witch. Like, I just see myself as someone that does those kinds of things, but I don't do spells or, you know, things like that. You know, none of that really interests me that much.
Yeah. No,
I just am very feeling led. I'm feeling led. So maybe I'm a feeling witch. I don't know.
I don't know why. I've never asked anyone that, so I don't know. It's just popped up in my subconscious.
I've been told, in past lives, apparently I was a witch, and I've brought that through into this life. But even this whole past life thing, again, going back to Bashar, which I was talking about this morning, which I haven't spoken about Bashar for ages until today. But this whole past life thing, even that is kind of not accurate for how reality functions, which is supposedly reality is stacked on top of each other. It's frequency. There's not really like a past, or future. It's just all happening now, and it depends where our frequency is tuned into. So it's more like we have parallel lives. Our past life is more so still existing, but we're just not tuned into that frequency. If that makes sense.
Yes, you talk to someone which is all cuckoo in their brain. So going to Bashar, it's like, I don't know, 1 trillion pictures per second. So now if we change the frequency, I could actually sit next to you and we could continue the podcast being next to each other, because in one reality we do that somehow, where I'm so rich and I'm just flying to everyone I'm interviewing.
Yeah. Or there's another one where like I'm just slightly 1 centimeter to the left, and that's just the change. It's like infinite possibilities of how it's happening right now.
Yeah, but there's many I've heard this year which said this is not true. It's kind of like the Marvel universe with Loki, if you have seen that, where he's holding all the realities together. So it's kind of like these slightly, where you're 1 centimeter left or right, or I'm drinking hot tea or a Coke instead. These realities are fading out. It's just like the big events. And someone said it's actually where you're meant to be a teacher for someone to grow or change or learn, or you are going in a relation and going now dating this person or dating that person, and both will bring growth to one or the other, or both will have a reality. But if I would date someone and it's just a meaningless sex or meaningless whatever, those realities will just fade out. But it doesn't really matter, does it? It's just for...
It doesn't. But it's still interesting. It's intriguing to think moment to moment what's happening to this space and time situation.
Yes, it's just a mindfuck. It's mindfucking, but...
it's a mindfuck, yeah. There's fun in the head fuck.
Yes, but we should not get hang up on these things. It's good once in a while, but I think in the spiritual world, this is kind of like where people can get really lost. So they get really ungrounded. They go really up somewhere instead of focusing on where we are. So that's like half an hour on your first word of emotional. So
there you go.
So I think we have a chapter 1, emotional. So. But I think the next word you call sensitive goes, and then I also mentioned highly sensitive, emotional. So it's kind of
the same thing, yeah.
It's basically...
Probably should have thought of a different word, but...
I mean, you can still throw in another word if you want to, but it's up to you.
Yeah, because sensitive and emotional are the same. I would say, as the other word, I would say very reflective, almost to a cursing degree.
Okay, and why?
Well, what comes with that is just chronically overthinking every tiny macro, micro thing ever happening at any point in time, which can be very paralyzing, but also helps me have a broad range of interests. And, I would like to think that I can hold a good conversation because I'm always thinking about things. So I always will have a view or an opinion on something, or, so it's really helpful for creativity. Again, with the emotional, it just brings a library of things that I can draw from. But then it can also go into analysis paralysis, constantly. So that's my kind of explanation of what I mean about reflective.
So that's really funny because, as I said before, I think the last interview was with the human design projector I had, and you are so a mirror to me. It's like, how comes that like the two interviews I have are with two women, one from Denmark, one from England. I'm Swiss, reflecting the way my inner world works.
So interesting.
Right, this chronically overthinking. It's a sickness, right? So my human design, my gene keys, which a friend, the 5-hour interview I had, said, look at the gene keys, don't look at the human design. It really is showing to me like learning to find my sacred space. Like you said, you need your self time, right? To be alone, to not overthink, to actually learn to be quiet and just absorb. And you mentioned as well to have a point, to have a view, to have something to say. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what I do. And so many people are like, can you not stop talking? Can you not just take in what I say and always have something to say? I'm like, I just want to help. And today I listened to the Human Design podcast, the Beginner's Guide for Human Design or something like that. I tried to interview her, but somehow it, our conversations watered out. But let's see if I can make it to go a bit more detailed into.
This would give it, This will probably give it some energy because we've been talking about human design. So it's, and I had another conversation yesterday with someone about human design. So it's weaving its way.
Yeah, but because it would be interesting to, and I had a discussion more on the 3-5 because I'm a 3-5. So I learn by mistakes and I'm seen as a helper, but I have more the feeling I see myself as a helper, not people. But that's probably just my perspective. But this projector thing, I can see that with you. It's so in this podcast today, I heard it. Yeah, it was this morning before my headset said no more battery. It was about being a projector, and we want to help. We want to bring in different viewpoints. We want to bring in different perspectives, different angles. So to help people, but we are looked at as annoyances sometimes, like as know it better, know it all, like, clever clocks or whatever it's called in English.
Well, it's sometimes, I mean, I have to observe that shadow in myself, which is it can come out of an anxiety, and actually sometimes that part that we think is helping can actually be a bit of boundary crossing with other people, where it's like they don't, like, we're not trusting that they can, help themselves, and it's not always up to us to just say things, because actually, like you said, it comes across as annoying. It can just be like, oh, just stop, like, let me think, because we're not trusting that other people, with that shadow side of it's really activated, we're not trusting that someone else can think for themselves. So it's those mirrors that come in where it's like, I might not have boundaries myself. If I'm experiencing people that don't have boundaries with me, what is that mirroring in me? And so I had to see, oh damn, it's that you're talking about, where I can just overshare and sometimes do things with people that may not want to hear it. So it's having that discernment in ourselves and getting out of our heads and into what is this person actually needing from me right now. Maybe they don't need all this like word jumble that I'm saying to them. And it's hard because it feels like it's coming from a genuine place of help, which I believe it is, but it's just, not always wanted from people, and that's fine.
It's absolutely fine. Everything is good as it is. Even whatever elections we have around the world, even restrictions we have, even interactions with our work relations, friends. But this is really, for me personally, so I'm just sharing, who knows, but I can see you reflecting and you kind of absorbing, and you have a very similar way of understanding. It's really like, for me, like my throat is very active, so I'm communicator. What a surprise, I'm doing podcast. Yeah,
a good use of that energy. It's a good use.
But communication is also listening, right? It's also learning to be quiet when you need to be quiet and just be there. And one podcast, it's like 2 years ago, I interviewed a woman that did suicide, saw the other side, came back. And so I was like, oh, from depression to expression, like, why did you kill yourself? What brought you there? And how did you prepare? Like, how else did you do you have the chance to talk to someone which got there? I mean, normally they're dead, right? So you cannot really ask how. And she's just also said that it came up while you were talking. is like sometimes you just need to be there. You don't need to give any advice. Like everything will be fine. You will be good, and or do this meditation or do this or that, because we have all this knowledge in us. Because I guess you have also been in this depression or anxiety, or because of the sensitivity and the emotional and being a projector, being ADHD probably, because you're also creative, right? So then you're labeled ADHD. I'm like, yeah, I'm ADHD,
Yes.
but that's just a lifestyle. It's not healed by medication. Stop with the caffeine,
No.
stop with the monster drink, stop with the Red Bull. Try to do the meditation. Here in Denmark, it's so difficult during the day because you have 20 to 30 minute lunch break. In Switzerland, it's at least half an hour, most of the time 1.5. There I had like 15 to 30 minutes I could just turn off,
Damn.
right?
Yeah.
So you just have this 30 minutes of turning off, and I had no smartphone back then, right? So you just turn off, and my ADHD was not a big problem. But here I cannot turn off. And of course, more and more people are ADHD or whatever, because they're highly sensitive, they're emotional, they have not learned to meditate, they haven't learned to be mindful, they have not learned to turn
Well,
off.
also as well, yeah, they've not learned to turn off because we live in a world now that is not designed for human. We haven't adapted yet. I believe we will. I believe that we will adapt to this technological age. But I think this rise in ADHD symptoms, again with these labels, but it's just a symptom of us not living how, you know, we're designed to. We're not designed to take, I mean, this is, everyone says this all the time, we're not designed to take all this information, but it's true, we're not. Like, it's too much all day, every day. So, you know, if you have a bit of, you know, trauma or whatever these words are, you know, it's just triggering us 24/7. You know, I've just had to really put some strict boundaries in with social media. I don't have the apps on my phone. I just download the apps when I want to post something.
Oh.
Because my ADHD style brain will just get lost, and then all my energy is just, you know, poured out. Like any of us that are doom scrolling, it's so bad for us. It's so bad for our brain and our creativity. So yeah, we're just not. It's not good for us basically to have all of this information.
Okay.
And with the meditation as well, one thing that's been really helpful for me, like you brought something up about just like that woman with the suicide, you know, sometimes it's just a case of being there for someone, not even saying words, just being like, I am here for you. And that's something that I've been learning to do a lot this year, because it's been a year of really intense grief after a breakup, and finding lots of stuff out about really close family members that has been really hard, you know, and it's been a lot of grief. So I've had to really sit with myself in such a profound way that I've not sat with myself before. And that I've been utilizing that exact method of actually just sitting there and holding myself there while I'm crying, and not journaling, not just doing, I will journal, but I'll just hold myself and let myself cry. And it's almost like this wise grandmother part of me comes out, and she just holds me, you know, it's just, I'm holding my own hand and soothing myself through that process. And the charge from it clears so much quicker, and I'm not forcing it. I'm just internally saying to myself, I've got you, I'm here, however long we need to be here. We won't do any work if we don't need to. Just let this out, do what you've got to do. And just that act of being there, not analysing it or writing anything down, just letting the emotion come up. I mean, it's been game changer. So like all these books, you know, giving all these techniques, like it is just so simple. The truth is always so simple, you know.
You mentioned you deleted apps and download them again when you want to post. I have a friend, Patrick, I've interviewed him 2 or 3 times, and he does the same. I realized I have Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. I don't know how I found you, because I'm not doom scrolling. And even on Facebook, I basically have learned just to put up my reels, put up a few things, and sometimes I'm scrolling, sometimes I go into search. Mostly it's about creative stuff. Could be jointer, carpentry work, I want to learn something, or drawing, going sketching more, or doing my symbol. So that's when I go. So I have it more under control, but I know people that just like dung 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 dung, and when I'm not careful, I'll do it, right? I'll do it.
Well, it's because it's comforting as well. I'm not saying it's all bad, because I've learned a lot, and I have there's a lot of really valuable information I have got, and seen really cool art, but it's just more so, I found that it was just taking away from those moments of quiet where. In those moments of quiet, I'd be like, oh, I'm just gonna play the piano and maybe write something or make a beat or do some drawing. I was just filling that spare time that in the past I would have done that just with scrolling and message. Even I've deleted WhatsApp because I was just because of me and my friends were all very talkative. They're probably all projectors as well, so we're just sometimes 20-30 minute voice notes, and I'd walk around and get all my steps in, but we're just non-stop, and I just had so many voice notes, and I loved talking with everyone, but I was like, this is just taking up all of the brain space that I would have to just be in my own creative bubble. So I just deleted everything and now I just text people old school, and it's so good. It's just better. I miss the voice notes, but I'm I missed being creative more, because that's important, So,
yeah.
But that's great that you can have that self-control with the app still on your phone.
Not with WhatsApp, but yeah, my friend said, hey, your voice messages on WhatsApp, they have shortened. So it looks like you have found more ground and more creative. So exactly what you say. I haven't deleted WhatsApp because I'm living in Denmark. My family is in Switzerland, and basically my network is world around. And one of the friends I talked to, he's in Botswana, I think, in Africa. The other one is in Texas. Right, so it's kind of you're kind of bound to those things. Otherwise, you pay a lot of money for the messaging.
Well, yeah, exactly. But there's other ways. I mean, I've actually been using the Signal app.
Yes.
And that's just but I haven't been leaving voice notes, but some people can catch me on there. But that's a secret to some people.
I have Signal, Telegram, WhatsApp, because some people are here, some people are there. So my group chats are on Telegram. My astrology channel to get the latest news about how the planets are, the Lion's Gate and the full moon.
Yeah. Yeah. Telegram is a wild cowboy land that I have, but the groups, man, it's too much. It's too much.
Okay, but I can see we have to close that chapter, otherwise we're gonna have half an hour talk about the different. Now let's go to. So this second chapter with being what do you say, reflective, overthinking. So I can see you had that always as a child, kind of, I guess, and now you are able to control it more. Do I get that right, or are you still overthinking?
No, I definitely am still overthink things, but I think just using those grounding techniques is really helpful, because it's I can replace that overthinking thought with a comforting thought, because really overthinking is just anxiety. It's I need to be in control of all of these thoughts and what's going to happen, and so it's learning how to bring that nurturing voice, and it's it's okay, baby, we've got this, don't worry. You don't need to worry so much, just be here now, we're gonna have some food, we're gonna have a nap. It's speaking to yourself like a baby. So that has really helped with the over analyzing and just getting in mind spirals.
Okay, so
just grounding.
So the tip of the day, or a call of action, basically, so I don't have to ask you at the end, I can still ask you, is the grounding rod into the earth. It's helping with the sensitivity, the emotional, and the overthinking, overanalyzing. Yeah,
definitely. Because the grounding rod has encased in that the old wise grandmother inside of me that is just it's okay, you can chill out now, Yeah. All of that is in this rod. So
Pachamama,
that's the tool.
Pachamama has you, Gaia has you, Mother Earth.
Yes.
Don't remember how it's called in Viking, the Mother Earth, but Pachamama, I think it's a Tamil word or a Sanskrit, I think. So.
Okay. Yeah, I know the term.
Yeah, it's South Americans.
South American.
They use it.
South American.
My yoga teacher, which teaches me, and yesterday he talked about the silver cord coming from the navel if you want to go astral travel. He
Yes,
told me
yeah,
Pachamama, I think it's a Tamil or Sanskrit word, I don't remember. So it's a very, very old word.
Oh, okay.
And so it's used somewhere completely else in the world. So how is that possible? Because everything we learned, it's not true. I mean, our cultures have been international. We have been connected before.
Oh, yeah.
So
The land masses were not as they were today.
not only that, we were able to fly and we were able to navigate. And I mean, we have been able to...
Oh, yeah, the technologies, yeah.
It's an up and down. We are not the highest civilization ever been. Perhaps you're the only one using plastic. Who knows? But anyway, there's mushrooms eating oil. I found out. So, and bacteria is eating plastic.
Yes,
So
yeah.
who knows? Because
We have all the tools. We have all the tools to fix the earth.
yes, we have it in us. As long as we are grounded and we know who we are. So let's go to chapter number 3. Out of I don't know how many chapters you're gonna have, but it's the playfulness. So you already have sprinkled a little bit why you're playful.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to be as a safe, like a survival mechanism, just for all the, all the spirals that my mind can get in, and how serious I can take things, you know. But I love comedy, and I love just being silly, and just dark humor, and just you know, that balances out so much of the emotion, and just having fun and dancing like a loon, and when I'm not in my serious space, I love drum and bass and heavy bass music and just all that stuff, that just makes me alive. So that's just such like a balancing rod for all of the seriousness that dominates most of the day, and just keeping it up, like I said, bringing the playfulness into the Reiki and the Astro codes, and I think that's why like the music that I make is such a blend. I mean, it's everything we've spoken about. I write the really kind of deep piano music and ballads and emotional songs, but then also really upbeat, just fun, tribal feeling kind of, housey stuff. So it's this full spectrum that I need to utilize, i.e., watching comedy to keep that playfulness there, but then also allowing myself to feel deeply so I can channel that kind of music, So yeah, it's just the other part of the rod that needs to be in my in my field.
Okay, it's because you said you could be so serious, overthinking, overanalyzing. Have you then been a very serious kid and not playful, or have you always had this playful thing to kind of...
I've always had this polarity. When I think about myself as a young girl, it's either just being so stupid and winding my sister up like to a very annoying degree, or I'm just there, in my room just playing with my Barbies and making the most like dramatic story that that's so sad, and like listening to really sad music. So there was that contrast has always been part of me, and that's very reflected in my astrology chart, because I have the moon in the 12th house and the sun in the 1st house. So I have the moon in the most kind of dark, you could say, the 12th house is the last house in astrology, so it's the deepest, the most just kind of like everything, and then the 1st house is this, where the sun is, it's this like what people see and like joy, and so this polarity is reflected in my chart, and I always kind of thought, it's not, I shouldn't be serious and stuff, but I just realized it's what I've come with, and it's fine. I have the sun in the 1st house to help me through this strange life. So yeah, it's always been there.
Yeah. So I think now we have like about 25 minutes. And I reached out to you because of your astrology art and the knowledge of astrology. But I'm also I think to remember that you mentioned something on Instagram that you had like the chance of being living from music, being an artist, like being a musician. And
yes, yeah, no, I make music as well. That's like but like that's really where
that you could go into having contracts and it was not your world. Was that you, or do I just mix it up?
Yeah, I was signed to record labels and things like that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Didn't you mention something a few weeks ago on Instagram that you could have gone that path with contracts and labels, and you didn't like the energy or the way of how the business works?
Yeah, so my journey with music, I basically have always made music or studied music, and in 2014 I started producing for myself, and I was working with some people that I got on the map basically with all the major record labels, and I had all of these A&R meetings in London, and it was all posh and fancy, and I think I was like 24 at the time, roundabout. And anyway, it was all new, and I was still discovering who I was as an artist, because I just started producing, so I was still kind of playing around with my sound, and they just know that their job is to schmooze you and just light a fire up your butt. And I fell for all of it. I was like, oh my god, and so I ended up signing a management deal with the head A&Rs from Virgin Records. They were my managers. And I had a publishing deal with Universal. I had a 2 EP record deal with a UK label called PMR Records that released Disclosure. They're a really famous electronic duo from the UK. So it was it was all very cool. I was in like the cool part of the industry, and got played on radio, BBC Radio 1, and had, lots of accolades and nice things to write, on my website. But as time went on and I was discovering more of my sound and experimenting more, with electronic stuff, because of the nature of my voice, I do have a very, soulful voice that can work well over mainstream sounding songs. But then I also fit over, my voice can fit over many different things. But the direction, obviously, they wanted me to go in, they're a business. They wanted me to be writing, songs that, Taylor Swift can sing, or, things that are just watered down. And I'm not throwing shade. I don't like to do that on other artists. But, just not music that necessarily, for me, gets me in my heart. It's just written for, a broader purpose of sales. So they, I think, low-key just were hoping that I was going to go in that direction, and it just got to the point where we weren't aligning, and the things that were kind of being said to me were just became very harsh and just not sensitive to me as an artist. And it's very, writing songs is already a vulnerable thing to do. So when you're showing it to people and they're like, oh, but shouldn't you write it more like this, because it didn't sound how they wanted it to. It just really, it was very traumatic. It was a very traumatic period of time, because the way that I would make music was turning into this really fun experimental place. But yeah, it wasn't aligning. So I just thought, releasing music in this way with major record labels and things like that, it's got an icky energy. I had opportunities to work with Diplo and things like that. I don't like name dropping, but it's just to paint a picture of the path that I could have gone down. But my morals and my integrity was, however much a part of me was like, well, I'll just do it and see what happens. I couldn't, something in me just wouldn't allow me to do it, because when I write something, I have to feel it. I have to feel it so deeply. So that kind of just broke down. I parted ways with the managers, and the record label just kind of, that fizzled out. And then there was kind of some legal stuff that just ended quite messily. But I ended up getting all the rights back to all of the music, which was amazing. So there was kind of this gift from the universe or whatever that just, gave me full control back of all the music. So through all of that turmoil, something really good happened at the end of it, and I did have some amazing experiences that I don't want to, disqualify from this story. So yeah, after that I went down an independent route, and I got to work with Abbey Road Studios. They asked me to record some stuff. So I still had, I realized, wow, I can do this on my own. You don't need to have all this, fancy stuff behind you. Opportunities can still come. So, yeah, it kind of I just am now on that independent route, and the artwork was building slowly alongside of that. You know, music was the main thing, but I think in a way that had to break down, because I don't think I would be making artwork in the way that I am if I had that success where it could have gone in the industry. So I think that there was something guiding me away from that, so I could form a bit more of a lot more of a unique path for myself, you know, which I'm still discovering, and I'm still figuring out how I want to position myself and what I want to do with music, how I want to blend the music and art. There's some really cool ideas that have been brewing recently. So yeah, that's the journey basically with all of that.
I just had to ask, because like, what, music? And you know, like, you do so many things, and I have a friend which has his own studio, and he fights a lot. He's annoyed. He's like, what the fuck, this music is crap, and look at in the charts, and what I'm doing is so much more, you know, more depth, more width, more whatever, and they don't play. And you know, he is a bit, but it's
I know it is hard, but there was something I heard that made a lot of sense, and it's the more people there are, the lower the IQ. And the way that I interpret that, the reason that mainstream music is always going to just be on top, the like not as, you know, in-depth music is rarely going to be at the top, just because most people just don't have the, it's not an intelligence, I don't mean that in a mean way, but it's just they're not. When music is more clever, let's say, or it's got more thought to it, it requires more thought to listen to. And most people, when they listen to music, they don't want to be thinking. They just want to be listening to stuff, you know? So for musicians, it's annoying. And we're like, oh, it's just crap in the, you know, mainstream, which maybe it is. But we as musicians, or people that enjoy tougher to listen to music, or just more experimental, our brains are just wired a bit differently, and it's like it can all exist at the same time, and it's just the way the system is. It's, you know, we just have to get creative in other ways to get the music out there, you know. So but I feel your friend's pain. I do feel the pain, but you know, it's just how it is. It's how it's always going to be.
Yeah, he has this really nice, soulful, jazzy, whatever, funky voice. But so what was the music? Now you said your voice can go in so many ways, and you said beats, and then you were talking about drum and bass and piano. So I'm like, what now? So you're basically Lenny Kravitz, like doing everything yourself, or how is it with you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I make the beats and I record the songs, and yeah, it's kind of a one-woman. Because so my dad is a violinist for the Royal Opera House, and he's also a composer. So I was surrounded by that, you know, and he's an astrologer, so that's really where I get all the stuff from. He was one that introduced me to everything. He's an like inventor and free energy and Nikola Tesla. Like he's a cool guy. You need to get him on somehow.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get him on a podcast.
Okay, let's do that. I mean, let's make this a success. So we can have, that would be the first time, daughter-father kind of connection. Why not? That would be fun.
Why not?
So
he's a very humble man. But yeah, so. I create everything basically. I mean, I have collaborated with different producers, and that's always a really beautiful experience to just bounce off, you know, someone else and their ideas. But yeah, it's been a one-woman show for for most of what you hear.
Okay, so we will have to get some links at the end of the show notes to actually hear the music. But what is the style? Are you like polyvalent in the music style, or are you going into one direction when you make music?
It really is, as I said, because of that emotional spectrum that I live on, it just naturally translates into the music. So I and that's also, I think, why I wouldn't be a good business choice for a record label, because I don't have any interest just to stay in one lane and make one particular type of music. I get bored. So if you go on my Spotify, you'll hear there's piano songs, there's also electronic stuff. There's just such a mix of sounds on there. And I struggled with that I've been having an artist identity crisis, because the industry demands that genred and people, when, you know, even like your question, I honestly can't say that it's just one thing. The only thing that unites the whole thing is just me and my voice, you know, but the actual sound is not going to be for everyone, because some people might just prefer the piano stuff, other people might just prefer the more upbeat stuff. It's, you know, there's something for everyone in what I create, but it is one of those things where you just have to listen, you know, and form your own opinion on what comes through the speakers.
I'll need to see. I need to listen to you, because when I look at my CDs I have here, so there's like Yellow from Switzerland, which is kind of like sampling. They were like the first samplers apparently. Then there's Lenny Kravitz, obviously, Pink Floyd, Queen, Green Day. There's Prodigy. There's Moby. There's
a full range.
There's some classical stuff. Then different jazz, which I don't remember. Blues, I love really nice blues. I was also thinking when you, what did you say? But intelligence, about you need to use your brain power to listen to the music. And I was thinking more like the emotional power to be actually be and sitting there to actually emotionally feel.
Yes.
The music.
100%. Yeah, definitely. And that could be the other thing, is that as a world, we're trained not to feel our emotions, you know, or we're trained to feel them, but in a very basic way so they can be manipulated, you know, externally. So I think, I mean, maybe that's incorrect to say. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn there about the world in general. But yeah, perhaps it is more so a case of fine-tuning our emotions so we can be open. You know, the deeper we've gone with ourselves, perhaps the more energetics from music we can take in and have a wider variety of taste. Maybe there's got to be some like studies on you know, if someone only listens to one specific kind of music, what does that say about them? You know, I could just be completely talking out my butt right now, but yeah, it's interesting.
There is definitely. I've heard that long ago that if someone listens only to this type of music or that type of music, it says something about the personality, kind of work, how the person interacts with people, success as well. I think highly successful entrepreneurs, etc., they listen, I think, more to classical music and jazz and stuff like that. I think, but
interesting.
Don't hang me up on that. It's just something which triggers from the subconscious. So I should listen more to my Mozart and Bach. But I'm listening to a lot of tribal native music lately for the last 2-3 years.
Beautiful.
And a lot of...
Yeah, there's an amazing...
The beats, right?
Oh, sorry. There was delay.
No.
The beats, yeah.
The beats, like... And that's another question. While I'm here, I think it's kind of... We're a little bit too little into going into the astrology, so let's use that time to go a little bit in the music, and then we have to have a second interview more on your astrology and and sacred geometry and all that stuff, because there's so many questions. 10 minutes are not enough to even talk about that. But when I listen to music or think of music, there's like the healing music. There you have this healing solfeggios, you have like the 524, the 440, whatever, these kind of frequencies and beats, and for me most of the time I think more of like the beat, like the heartbeat or the drum beat or the bass.
Yes.
How do you use that? Like, because I really love to feel this native kind of beats. That's me.
Yeah, well I released an EP called Motherland, where that's on Spotify so people can hear that afterwards, but that whole EP was very inspired by exactly what you just said. You know, from cultures all around the world, there was a guy called David Fanshawe that the reason I found out about him was my dad. When my dad was at music college in the 60s, this guy called David Fanshawe came to the college, and he basically was the only person at that time that went around every continent and recorded indigenous music that had never been recorded before. So he got thousands of tapes of these indigenous song and these, you know, like 1,000-year-old kind of, you know, just music from these tribes and cultures. And so anyway, this guy came in and my dad told me about this, and something sparked in me, and I was like, oh, I just would love to hear how this sounds. So I bought the CDs off eBay, I think, of some of the samples from I think I got from Melanesia and Polynesia and just some others. And at the time I was living in London, renting a studio place with someone, and on my shift in the studio, I just turned the lights off. I got the music on my laptop and turned the speakers up because they were soundproofed, so I could just listen to it as loud as I wanted. And it was the most... I've never ever had an experience like it, to hear this music coming out the speakers, and like you said, the heartbeat of the drum, and just all of these pure sounds from the earth. They're the vessel, the people playing it, they're the vessel for really like the word you said, the heartbeat for the earth coming through. And it just really inspired this whole EP, this Motherland EP. And at the time as well, I was reading this book called The Urban Shaman by Sergei Kahili King. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And he was sharing a lot about Hawaiian shamanism and, their philosophies on life. So just all at this time, I was just absorbing all of this really fascinating information about other cultures and how they see things, and the deep spiritual, just philosophy that was coming through that, and all of that just went into the EP. It was one of the most trippiest times of my life making this. The synchronicities were wild, just the people I just randomly met, and it was all like these puzzle pieces building this EP. And it very much felt like I was just a vessel and things. I hate saying that as well, because I don't mean that from an ego place, but that's just how it felt. There were some decisions that I made that just felt like I was being told to make it, so that influence really came through that EP basically. And I've just kept that. For me, when I make music, it's so important to have all the elements involved. That's kind of how I know what's missing. Is there earth in this track? Earth is the bass, earth is the the lower frequencies. Is there fire? Is there some form of kind of excitement and drive and passion? Even if it's a piano song, is there enough fire and passion, in the message behind it, and the air and the water? Maybe this track, it's missing some water. It needs some more like etheric kind of floaty sounds. Where can I bring more reverbs in to just bring that emotion, water, So I really bring those elements. No matter what song I'm making, it will be constructed in that way. The same as an Astro Code, it's including all the elements based on a person. So yeah, for each song, I'm just working with, the elementals basically to form a balanced song, no matter what genre it is. So yes, I may have gone on a tangent from your original question, but that's the best way I can explain.
Oh, no. You did perfect. Perfect. I love that's my show. It's I want to inspire people to go off tangent, share, and really bring up the nuggets they normally don't share. I love it when they say never. Yes. No one ever asked me that question. No one really went that way. I had that a few times with people being interviewed by me. Yeah. So yeah, fuck. We only have like 5-7 minutes left, and I've never heard that the elements in music, like you talk about the fire, the earth, the wind, water, and reverbs. I'm like, wow. Because like 5 years ago, I was in this retreat, and I said, what I want to do in life is an LP based on the energy centers, the chakras, like having 7, 8, 9. Some say we have 12 chakras, like 12 songs, all based, one on the root chakra, one on this chakra, heart, throat, whatever. And then use different frequencies, different elements to actually support it and make it in such a way that it actually could be played on radio.
Yeah.
Make it in a way that it could be played on a radio. So you don't realize it's basically one of these songs, but so it's kind
Definitely.
of fitting into a radio station, and people are like, oh, I love it. And then they realize, oh, it's actually activating the root chakra. It's activating the heart chakra. It's activating the crown chakra in some way, right? Making people passively.
No, definitely. That's what I would do, because that EP, that was the second EP with the record label. So luckily that music got played worldwide, you know, it got on all the big radio stations, even on Australia. There's a track called TSIER, which stands for This Shit Isn't Even Real. And that song, you know, did really, really well. But it was all encompassing, you know, all that influence. And that was actually inspired by a woman that I saw looping on stage her baby's heartbeat. She was like a beatboxer performer, just really cool. And she looped her baby's heartbeat. And I remember I was at that gig and I said to my friend, I was like, I'm sorry, I have to go home. Like, I have to make some music right now. And I was just stayed up till like 2 a.m. just like jumping around, like making this beat, and which became the song This Shit Isn't Even Real. TSIER. So that song got played everywhere, and there was like, as I was saying, all of these elements. I really intentionally put so much into that, so it was that feeling of like, yes, like people are responding to this and they maybe don't even know what they're responding to. But that's the kind of responsibility, I think, as musicians, of what we put in the music is going to translate into someone's spirit. So we have to purify ourselves to make sure that we are outputting the purest frequency that we can, you know, even if it's about something painful. You know, is there that element of resolve? Are we, you know, putting our realizations into the music as well, you know, that, you know, so yeah.
Wow. We need to detox our Spotify playlist and our
yeah. Now that could be me thinking too seriously about it, and it may not be that deep, but you know, I'm just gonna, it could be some food for thought, you know.
No, but there's some music when I listen to now, I'm like, wow, I have it on my favorite list. I had like an Apple playlist with like stars and everything. It's completely fucked up now. But I spent some time to actually clean out the things I don't like. And I'm like, how is that under your favorite, like 4-star songs? This is crap. This is like, this has no frequency.
Well, at the time you liked it, you know?
Yeah. Lower consciousness. But there's this, another thing you mentioned, being the vessel, and you called it feeling egoistic. And I'm like, no. It doesn't feel egoistic at all. For me, that's what I heard Greg Braden talking about a lot, because he's also around musicians. It's like the musicians which or what is it, Bruce Lipton, I think, talks also about that.
Yes, yeah.
The artists which say it's not them. I think even Red Hot Chili Peppers and Rolling Stones and other artists which have been so long successful, not just one LP or two, they said like, it's not me, I was high, I was in a good mood or whatever, and then it just came through me. It came through me and I just wrote it down. I don't know what it happened. And I think also Johnny Depp is kind of like an artist like that, right? Which is kind of like, I just play it. It's not me, I'm just, right? So, and if you're connected and say, this is my song, I wrote it, these people are like one-day wonders or one-year wonders. So it's true. I suppose, there is that, because that's the best songs always come through that way. I'm not going to say that there have been some songs that have done well, that were very well thought out and were very much, you know, piece by piece put together, that still ended up doing okay. But the ones that do just come quickly, you know, they just hit in a different way. And I think it's because it's coming purely from, you know, the ether, which is just untainted by whatever human shit is going on. It's just like, boop. So that's the goal, to always be in that flow state. Yeah. The questions are coming and they're flowing through me, and I know I have to close down it. Damn it.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I have to go out, but we could do another 5 minutes if you wanted.
No, it was just like this. The other question is then, if you have, and that's also what I heard from other, with your overthinking mind, right, with your sensitivity, that you had like a song coming through you, which you played, I don't know if you used the computer, the piano, writing down the song, played on the guitar, whatever you did, you played it, but then it came very fast through you, but you started overthinking and started kind of working on it, and basically destroyed it, or heard a similar song which was very close to what came through you on the radio later on. Did something like that happen ever to you?
Well, I have a hard drive with an insane amount, and I know a lot of artists have this, just of so many unfinished ideas, and it's heartbreaking because I'll have periods where I listen back and I'm like, this is so good, why did I not just finish this? But it's because the overthinking mind comes in and does just ruin the process. So I have so much of that where I listen back years later and I know the headspace I was in when I just discarded the idea, which is just like, oh, I'm just being hard on myself. But you just in my older part, or the part listening at the current moment, it's just like, damn it, why didn't I just see that through? But it's just obviously not meant to be. And yeah, there's definitely, so if I want to like go into a certain emotion with how I'm making music, for example, I went through a big phase of really like making just a lot of like beat driven stuff, and I was like, I want to just tap more into my emotional side because I know I'm going through a lot, so I know I've got a lot of material that I could write about, but I was just kind of stuck in this just beats and having fun. So I I've been listening to a lot more like R&B and just very melodic stuff, because that gets me in my more like songwriter mode as opposed to just like beats. So it's not so much that I'll copy what they're doing like melodically, but it will just get me in a tone and a state of frequency in myself, so I can allow myself to write more in that way and let that part of me express itself easier, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's just I tone myself. I listen to music that helps me get in that frame of mind, without just copying what they're doing. Yeah. No one's asked me that, so that's a good question.
Now I put something in your mind. But while you talked, I also thought or felt. So it could be that you're in a certain mindset that you want to go, as you said, you listen to R&B or soul or beat driven, and now suddenly something comes through you, another feeling, another way of making music, but you have like, you're already on that rail for this type of music, but something else comes. I can see, right? It's
yes.
Also for me, like I'm painting something and just like doodling and like, oh, that's cool. And then I want to finish it in that style, and it simply doesn't work because I want to do something else, and I'm just like in my head, like I'm not going to take a new, what is it called? Lehret, canvas and start something new. I want to finish that. And I think some really good artists, if it's painting or musicians or 3D computer, they, especially now if you have canvases, you have like several canvases. One is just like to get into the mood, and then you start painting, and then you can go back and forth. Like I'm more on this technical kind of style today, so I'm gonna do more technical, earthy kind of colored painting, and now I'm really colorful. Anyway, I'm always super colorful. If you look at the paintings, they're like almost painted, not blend. They're like super red, super yellow, super green.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a guy, there's an artist.
Music, right?
Yeah, same with music. That's a really good. Yeah, you sometimes it's actually just allowing that playfulness before to then get yourself in that zone. There's a really good YouTube channel by the artist David Cho, and he just is the creative god. Like in terms, he's a painter, but he just is so helpful to listen to because he's so inspiring. Just how he gets you thinking in your creative way. I'd really recommend listening to him. He's just really funny and like a joker as well. But the way that he approaches creativity is so unique and so freeing, and really brings that playfulness and just like encourages that childlike approach to creating, which is really where that flow enters,
Yeah.
So
and not go for the outcome, but just go with what comes, and then say, okay, I'm in this beat and I'm in this mood, but something else wants to come. I put that aside. I just go now 180 degrees. So now we almost the 5 minutes over. Is there anything you think in what we have talked you would like to add?
I think we covered a really good amount. Obviously my brain is firing in all cylinders, but no, I think we covered a really good amount. With all of this, it all comes down to being grounded. That's the only way life can actually function, is when we're rooted to the earth. And I spent a lot of my I've spent a lot of my life lost in spiritual concepts and wanting to learn the esoteric truth of things. And it's like, that's all well and good, but I'm just learning now that just being rooted in the earth is all we need, and nourishing ourselves and taking care of our body and mind, you know, as best we can. And the rest will just, you know, the magic will come as it's meant to. We don't need to like get lost trying to, you know, find all these things. So those are my final thoughts.
Perfect. It's kind of like a title as well. And what can people expect? I mean, I reached out to you because of your astro chart. So for a second talk, what will we talk about? What do you think? Like, definitely we stop with all the things. Now we have the introduction, so we go into the astrology. What can people expect?
Well, we can dive into just how these charts came about, what inspired me to start creating these art pieces, because that, you know, that's a whole kind of journey in itself of how that's sort of come about. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a professional astrologer, but I'm more so on the symbolism side. That's what I am versed in, you know, the elements and the more kind of what astrology is trying to say as a way of life, as opposed to me knowing the nitty, like gritty, you know, because it's a whole subject. So what people can expect is, we can go into how it came about, really, because it's been a wild ride. Yeah.
Yeah, you're reading my energy here. You're reading my aura. This is my show, basically, is how it's coming about, the path to where we are, and you know, useful tips and tricks, and helping people on their path, searching whatever it is, and trusting it's going in the right way. Perfect. That's actually awesome. That's the first time I ask someone what will be the second interview about. So now I got a teaser for myself.
We can definitely. Yeah. No, we can definitely do a part 2 whenever you think it will be good to do.
Awesong. So with that, dear listeners, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did it. And this was like 2 human design projectors ping-ponging back and forth their ideas.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It's honestly, it's been an honor to talk to you, and just thank you for inspiring my synapses to go in lots of interesting directions that I will be thinking about now for a while.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Skeleton bruise, scale up at one time. Wizardry code.